Most parents do not yell because they truly want to. They yell because, in that moment, they feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and powerless. When they ask a child once, twice, three times, and still get no response, that feeling of being ignored starts to build. And within seconds, irritation can turn into anger. The voice gets louder, the face tightens, and parents begin saying things they often regret later. But what many parents do not realize is that yelling does not actually make children listen better. In fact, it often makes it harder for them to take in what you are saying. When a child hears a harsh raised voice, their young brain does not process it as, "Mom is being serious." Their brain experiences it as a threat. And the moment a child feels unsafe, the brain shifts into protection mode. When that happens, the part of the brain that helps a child stay calm, process language, remember instructions, and follow through begins to shut down. In other words, in that moment, your child is not necessarily trying to be defiant or make your life harder. Their brain is simply focused on self-protection. That is why the more you yell, the more likely your child is to freeze, tune out, cry, or react even more intensely. It is not because they suddenly became more stubborn. It is because they are no longer in a state where cooperation comes easily. The good news is that once you understand what is happening inside a child's brain, you no longer have to rely on yelling to get them to listen. There are better ways. These approaches are not about being permissive, and they are not about letting your child do whatever they want. They are about communicating more effectively in a way that keeps your child's brain open instead of shutting it down with fear. And when children feel safe, connected, and clearly guided, their ability to cooperate can change dramatically. Here are 7 ways to help your child listen without yelling, based on how the developing brain actually works. 1. Pause for a few seconds before you speak. When your child is not listening, the natural reaction is often to speak louder right away. You feel like you already said it clearly, and now the only way to get through is to raise the volume. But in that moment, your body is already entering a stress response. Your heart starts beating faster, your shoulders tense up, your breathing gets shorter, and your tone begins to carry pressure. If you speak from that state, it is very easy for a reminder to turn into yelling. The most important thing in that moment is not to make your child change immediately. The first thing that matters is helping yourself regulate. Just a few seconds of pausing can completely change what happens next. When you stop, take a deep breath, let it out slowly, and repeat that a few times, your nervous system starts to settle. And when you become calmer, your child is much more likely to calm down too. Children are extremely sensitive to their parents' emotional state. If you are tightly wound, they can feel it almost instantly, even before you say much at all. But when you calm yourself first, your voice, your eyes, and your body all send a different message. I am in control and you are safe. Only when a child feels safe can they truly listen. So the next time you feel frustration rising, do not speak right away. Pause, breathe in deeply, exhale slowly. Give yourself a few seconds to regain your footing. It may be only 10 seconds, but those 10 seconds can save the entire interaction from turning into a power struggle. 2. Get down to your child's level. One small but powerful shift is this. Do not stand over your child and give commands from above. To an adult, that may feel normal, but to a small child, having a grown-up looming over them with a serious or frustrated tone can feel deeply intimidating. Your child is not just hearing your words, they are also feeling the pressure coming from your physical presence. When you kneel down, sit beside them, or lower yourself to their eye level, everything changes. Suddenly, you are no longer a large, overpowering figure. You become someone who is coming closer to connect. Your child becomes less defensive, less tense, and more open to what you are saying. Imagine yourself sitting down while someone stands over you, upset, and talking in a frustrated voice. Even if they are saying something reasonable, You would probably feel defensive, but if that same person sat down at eye level and spoke calmly, you would be far more likely to actually hear them. Children are the same way, only even more sensitive. So before you ask your child to do something, move closer, lower yourself, and speak with a calmer tone. That one physical shift alone can greatly increase the chances of cooperation. 3. Say your child's name before giving an instruction. One very common mistake parents make is giving an instruction while their child is fully absorbed in play, watching something, or completely focused on their own little world. Then, when the child does not respond, the parent assumes they are deliberately ignoring them. But many times the child never truly received the message in the first place because their attention was somewhere else. Young children do not switch attention as quickly as adults often expect. If your child is deeply engaged in something, their brain is locked into that activity. So, before giving your direction, you need to help them shift their attention to you. One of the simplest and most effective ways to do that is by saying their name first. For example, instead of immediately saying, "Put your toys away," you might say, "Ethan," and wait for him to look up, turn toward you, or show some sign that he is paying attention. Once you see that shift, then give the instruction. The difference is that now you are not talking into the air. You are speaking to a child whose brain is actually ready to hear you. That tiny extra step can make a huge difference because children cannot follow through on something their brain never fully registered. 4. Keep it short, clear, and one step at a time. When parents are frustrated, they often start talking a lot. They explain, repeat themselves, bring up past behavior, add warnings, and mix in their own disappointment. But for a young child, too many words at once are usually not helpful. They are overwhelming. A child's brain, especially their working memory and language processing ability, is still developing. If you speak in long paragraphs, your child may catch the first few words and lose the rest. By the end, what stays with them is not, "What am I supposed to do?" but, "Mom is really upset." Instead of saying, "How many times have I told you already? Why are your toys still everywhere? Dinner is almost ready. And if you do not clean this up right now, forget about cartoons tonight. Try something much simpler. Put the toys in the bin." That is it. A short, clear, specific direction is much easier for a child's brain to hold on to. Once they complete that one step, then you can give the next one. Do not hand them 3 or 4 tasks at once and expect smooth cooperation. For children, small steps almost always work better than a long lecture. 5. Use gestures or gentle touch to guide them. Sometimes words alone are not enough, not because your child is difficult, but because they need one more signal to connect the instruction to the action. A gentle hand on the shoulder, a point toward the object, or helping them begin the first movement can make a big difference. For example, if you say, "Put the teddy bear in the basket," while lightly touching your child's shoulder and pointing to the basket, the message becomes much easier to process. If your child still hesitates, you might gently place the bear in their hand and walk with them a few steps toward the basket. That is not doing it for them. It is helping them get started. Young children learn especially well through movement and sensory input. When you combine your words with a clear gesture, your instruction becomes more concrete and easier to act on. Sometimes what a child needs is not louder words, but clearer guidance. 6. Offer a small choice within your boundary. A lot of children's resistance does not come from being bad. It comes from their growing need for autonomy. At this stage of development, children want to feel that they have some say in their world. If every interaction feels like a command, they may push back simply to protect that sense of independence. That does not mean you have to remove the boundary. You can still hold the limit while offering a small choice inside it. For example, instead of saying, "Go put your shoes on right now," you could say, "Do you want to wear the white ones or the blue ones?" Your child still has to put on shoes, but now they get to make one small decision. Or instead of saying, "Go take a bath now," you could ask, Do you want to bring the duck toy or the boat toy into the bath? It is a small adjustment, but it helps your child feel like they are not being completely controlled. And when children feel a sense of ownership, they are usually much more willing to cooperate. The key is to offer choices that are both acceptable to you. Do not ask, "Do you want to get dressed?" If getting dressed is not optional, ask within the boundary you are already holding. When you do this well, you stay in charge while still respecting your child's developmental need for independence. 7. Replace a harsh tone with a calm, even playful one. Many parents believe that if they want their child to listen, they need to sound serious and strict. But the truth is, in many everyday situations, the harsher the tone, the more resistance it creates. A calm, warm voice, and sometimes even a playful one, often gets much better results. Children are highly responsive to tone. If your voice sounds sharp, heavy, or full of tension, their brain is more likely to go into defense mode. But if your voice sounds warm, soft, and connected, they are much more likely to stay open and cooperative. The request may be the same, but the tone can completely change the outcome. For example, instead of saying, "Come here right now," you might say, "Hey, I need my super helper over here." Instead of "Stop running," you could try, "Can you switch into turtle mode and move extra slow?" Instead of "Clean that up," you might say, "Let's see if this toy can fly back to its home." That little bit of lightness does not weaken your boundary. It just makes the instruction easier for your child to receive. Of course, in true safety situations, you still need to be clear and firm right away. But in most everyday moments, a gentler and more flexible tone is often the fastest path to cooperation. At the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is this: children do not learn to listen best through fear. They learn best when they feel safe, connected, and clearly guided. Yelling may make a child stop for a moment, but it rarely teaches real listening. When you learn to regulate yourself first, connect before correcting, speak with clarity, and guide with calmness, you are teaching your child something much deeper. You do not have to be a perfect parent to do this. You only need to begin with small shifts, one moment at a time, one slower breath before speaking, one moment of kneeling to eye level, one shorter instruction, one softer tone. Those small changes, repeated over time, can transform the emotional climate of your home. And sometimes what your child needs most in order to listen is not a louder voice, but a calmer one.